excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
All right, here we go. Two Guys and a Goalie. Cass will be joining us. Shortly. He's probably counting up all of his F1 winnings from the weekend. Hey, Gager, is that what Cass is doing right now?
Most likely, yeah. He's annoying in fantasy. Wow, I didn't picture him as the annoying guy. So, an interesting strategy he implemented. It worked out well for him. Went heavy with the constructors, right? I guess you could consider it, since he is the constructors champion of last year, putting all his eggs in the car basket. But it's a long season, Dusty. It's going to be difficult to change your teams without incurring any penalties. So this weekend will I think it's a little bit of a separation from the men and from the boys here.
Heading into the second weekend of the season on the Formula One circuit. Nielson engaged with you. Cass is joining. He's just waiting. He's gonna connect here right away. He'll be by. It is obviously game day. Edmonton Oilers and the Boston Bruins. Some news around the National Hockey League. The New Jersey Devils making a coaching change. I see Colton Parayko is trending on Twitter right now. There's nothing better than hitting the trending on Twitter tab on deadline day week, right, Gage? Or your heart stops ever so slightly.
Well, as long as one of those players that's not on your team that you like, but yeah, when you kind of get a little bit antsy when you see pieces of the puzzle that would look good on your favorite team. So you see Parayko and you're like, oh, geez, he would look good coming home. I don't know if that happens, but this week it reminds me a lot of silly season in F1, Dusty. That this week is basically the silly season.
Silly season. Definitely silly season. And speaking of silly, there he is. Matt Cassian joins us today. Cass, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Hardly silly when you're you're in a pretty good spot without burning a 3X chip sitting 2 and 3 in the F1 fantasy pool. Hardly silly season. Just winning season.
How much time are you putting into that every week, Cass? Like, I feel like there's a lot of research being done here and stuff.
Oh, I did. Heading into it, I did. Yeah, I did a thorough evaluation of the point system and of not really knowing exactly how. And I know Gager, I didn't pay too much attention to the practice sessions, but I did a little bit and saying, okay, based off how the point system works, this is what I feel is going to give me in week one the most likely opportunity of having success, and that's what I ran with. And you'll have to see, Gager, if I stick with it this week or if I change it up. You will have to see. But I'm happy with how week one went. Again, didn't have to burn the 3X chip to finish in second and third, and maybe make a few moves this week. Try to build up that value of the team so that I can fit in some better drivers along the way.
Building up the value of a team, just like teams are trying to do on deadline week in the National Hockey League. Wow.
Exactly.
That's amazing. 780-218-9999. If you're listening on TuneIn, you are listening on iHeart, or you're listening at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. It is deadline week. If you have any sort of trade suggestions for the Two Guys crew, feel free to fire those over 780-218-9999 or hit us up in the nasty chat as well. Eric Stewart is already in and says, why is Gagner waived? Stupid decisions. Well, I would assume this is like a paper transaction, so that if something happens prior to the deadline, Gage, you don't need to wait for him to clear whatever. He's already cleared this week. You can fire him down right away. Cass, is that what's happening here with Sam Gagner? It's got to be what's happening here.
Most likely, Gagner, right? Yeah. You're just prepping. Yeah, you're prepping for the trade deadline. you're prepping for the trade deadline. That's really what you're doing. Is you're trying to navigate that a little bit. So you're preemptively being prepared to move quickly on something if something materializes. That's my assumption. Because Gagner's played. I mean, he's like he was solid again against Pittsburgh. He
usually is when he gets in.
Yeah.
Right, Gage? You're like Gagner. You can't ask for much more from Gagner. Like,
what happens if it gets picked up, guys?
Oh, that would suck.
I mean, I'd be pretty surprised, but that'd be a weird twist for tomorrow afternoon in Edmonton. Yeah. That's
he's played great, man.
Yeah. I like what you need of him. That's what he does. Does that line not look a little bit more? Nothing against Derek Ryan by any stretch of imagination, but I don't know. It just seems like that line does more. It just does things when Sam Gagner is a part of it. I don't know what it means.
Gagner has that a little bit of extra offensive upside still at this age where he's able to create. Like he's looking to create half the time too. And I think by playing with, the scoreless wonder and young Dylan Holloway, I think it's actually a really good match that, Holloway going a million miles an hour and stuff. I liked the look of that line. Now look, they were playing against that Pittsburgh Penguins team, but building confidence is a powerful thing. I wanted to see more of that, actually. I didn't think Gagner should come out of the line.
Well, the interesting thing with Gagner, Matt, is that like even in his prime, he was never a speedster, right? It's not like he used his speed to find ways to success. He was always smart. He was always shifty. And even at this stage of his career, he can still be smart and shifty to have success. Yeah,
no, and that's exactly how he does it. Is he thinks the game well, and that's why I don't know how often I say it on here, but give me a player that thinks the game well over one that's just blazing fast because they can't think. Because if you're blazing fast and you can't think, you end up like a Nail Yakupov, who wonderful human, great person, but just can't process the game at a speed, and then it just completely nullifies any benefit that your speed gives you. But for Sam Gagner, it's like he thinks the game extraordinarily well. And that is just so important. I mean, that's the only reason that one of the only reasons that I played in the NHL. I mean, I was so slow comparatively to everyone else, but I thought the game well, and that made up for a lot of deficiencies. And Sam Gagner is, I don't want to say it makes up for deficiencies, but him thinking the game well makes up for speed because he's just always in the right place. He doesn't have to be as fast because of his positional play. So yeah, I mean, he still thinks the game well, still has some of that offensive touch. I just wish he would have scored on that slap shot from coming down the wing. I was so excited that he took a slap shot. I'm like, yes. And oh man, I wanted that to go in so bad. And almost. That
was like when Smitty used to wind up the clapper coming down the wing. Remember?
So
You're
great.
like, oh, here we go.
So great.
See what happens. Derek S. in the Nasty Chat says that Gagner slapper from the mid-circle on Sunday was a beauty attempt. Veteran move, knew the pass wasn't there, and just blasted one.
Just blasted.
Yeah.
I love it. It was so awesome, guys. It was so awesome.
Mike in Thunder Bay has texted in this morning. Gentlemen, I think the Oilers misspelled Connor Brown as Sam Gagner. Very odd, but glad to see Brown finally being sent down. That comes from Mike in Thunder Bay. And X-Ray J over on YouTube says, Jeff Jackson's not worried if they lose Samwise. CB28 can always pick up the ball and run with it. Hashtag cap management. What did you call him? The scoreless wonder, Gager?
Yeah, I think that's what I said. Yeah,
we've had a married couple send in a song. Probably, I don't know. We'll play it at some point this week. Cash, you'll get this. Like Jonty and Victoria has created a Connor Brown off the Schneid song, but Jonty wants it to be saved until he actually scores, which makes sense. But this couple, they emailed me on Sunday, I think. They're like, we've never put anything together like this, but we thought it would be fun. And Cash, you'd get it for sure as a guy with 3 daughters. But they took, do you want to build a snowman? And they said, do you want to score a goal, man? And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So we might play that on the show today or tomorrow or the next day.
Oh, that's great.
It worked out pretty well. Parents, it'll slap for parents for sure. It's pretty well done. We just haven't managed to get to it just yet. So, yeah, Sam Gagner's been a pleasant surprise. I would assume, like, after the deadline, does Sam Gagner even play anymore? Like, if they bring in one for it, because he already seems to be the odd man out, Gager, do you think after the deadline, how much do we even see of Sam Gagner?
I don't think much unless there's an injury or load management down the stretch, possibly. Dusty, it's too bad. I think there's an element that he provides during the game. He doesn't play like a guy that is like he's looking to accomplish things, like good big things when he gets out there, not just to have a shift where he doesn't get scored on, right? It's having that experience of having a guy like that. I think that's important. I don't know. It's not as quick as he once was, obviously, but look, there was 3-4 chances last game, and even looking back to when he does get in there always seems to be some creativity offensively. The only blunder defensively, I think, was that kind of bouncing puck one time that was a little bit unlucky, where he gave it up at that time, or wasn't expecting the pass, if I remember correctly. So he's a guy that I don't think hurts you. And looking at some of the other people that you can put into that spot, I have him up a lot higher in the depth chart of guys that I'd like to see on my fourth line.
Well, he's been super steady, guys. He's just been steady there. Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned the scoreless wonder, and you could look at Janmark as well.
Scoreless wonder sounds like a Superman style hero with a cape and the underwear. You know, it's real nice.
But really, guys, it's like just even his points per 60. What he has actually been able to produce in limited times, and like how many times over the last number of games could we say that Connor Brown looked really, really dangerous? Like, he hasn't, but pretty much every time Gagner has played, he's looked dangerous, and he's had grade A opportunities, or he's created opportunities where it wasn't a grade A opportunity, like the slap shot off the wing, to where he's actually produced. So yeah, I mean, he's a veteran guy you want around. I don't know how much he would play, as you both mentioned, down the stretch, but he's certainly someone you want to. I want him around, and I want him in the dressing room. Like, if you can avoid having to send him down, if this does end up just being a paper transaction, I think that's what you want.
This is the Black Ace story that ends in somebody getting hurt in the Stanley Cup final and Sam Gagner having to come into the lineup, and he goes to the net and just digs in the Stanley Cup winner from under the pad of the goaltender and becomes a legendary hero in Edmonton for the rest of his days. That's how this plays out. That's how it plays out. So don't panic that he got waived today, unless he gets spite claimed by somebody just because he does some good things every once in a while.
Someone, I can't remember who it was in the nasty chat, just said Calgary's going to claim him. Just
claim
out of
him.
spite. Yeah.
That's
Vegas is going to claim
Vegas,
him, and he's going to.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like
don't
Vegas
even
or LA claims him, and it's like he's the dagger. He's the dagger.
Man, how could he do that to the Edmonton Oilers, a franchise that he wants to work for in the future? I would assume. You just gotta say, no, sorry guys, caller quits. The hips aren't doing very well right now, or something along those lines. He would be a great Black Ace though, come playoff time. Right, have that guy around your group. I think that would be absolutely terrific. Oilers and Bruins tonight. We will get into that 4:00 pregame show with Tommy Gazzola. Cass, are you on pre and post tonight?
I believe I am.
All right, you believe he is. So Cass and Tommy tonight on pregame. When we'll get to lots of Oilers deadline stuff. We'll set up this game, obviously, between the Oilers and Bruins, but a few things happening around the National Hockey League since our last episode on Thursday. Gage, let's start with your thoughts on the New Jersey Devils in the classic not going to acquire a goaltender, fire the coach we signed to an extension half a year ago, and think everything's going to be fixed. What do you think?
Just a monumental collapse of management with the New Jersey Devils. This is a team that I don't know, guys. We were talking about them as a possibility of coming out of the East with all
at the beginning of the year.
And there was some injuries to Hughes and to Hamilton as well, and that's going to affect it. But their goaltending situation has been subpar the whole season. The fact that, I mean, I think they tried to do this exact same thing Edmonton did with seeing what they had, but still to that point, nothing transpired. Either one of those guys performed at a level to think, okay, we're okay in this situation, and to have nothing done up to this point and losing games because of soft goals, being in close games and having Oilers fans are are no strangers to that back-breaking goal in a tight game and seeing the bench deflated. Just a completely missed opportunity. I would have loved to have seen what those conversations with certain teams. There was always rumblings about Calgary and Markstrom, but the fact that it didn't get done way before this is it's sad for that organization, because I thought they were going to do some pretty special things moving forward this year.
Cass, you think this is something they can get back on track? I'm not saying for this season, but like, are the New Jersey Devils a playoff team again next year?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. There's just too much. There's too much young talent there, and they have some really good players on the roster. Really good players on the roster. So I can't imagine they're not or in that wild card conversation. But they do need to sort out the goaltending. And I agree with you, Gage. Like, if you knew this was a problem a while ago, should have done something about it a while ago. And now, the announcement out that you're not looking to move to Foley. I'm kind of like, well, what are you holding on to here? You're probably not making the playoffs. Why wouldn't you want to, even if you're just getting picks for them or picking a prospect, why wouldn't you bring that in so you could move it out to try to improve your goaltending in the offseason? I don't really understand that. I get that you're trying to still claw your way back into it, but to me, you're too far gone at this point. You're not going to do it. It doesn't make sense.
This text
They're
is
like
go ahead, Gage.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, man.
Oh, no, they kind of reminded me of the Oilers, the 1 year where when they lost the Ducks.
The year after the 17 campaign, 2018.
Yes,
and
everyone thought that, wow, this is amazing. They made strides. It was almost like a victory getting to that point. And what happened the next year? Complete collapse. Didn't even make the playoffs. So they're a young team, like Cass said, trying to learn how to win. It is difficult. I would expect them to be completely better next year and a much stronger team.
I want to just get to this text message that came in, and you can text us here on Two Guys and a Goalie live on iHeart, and tune in at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, and obviously on YouTube. Tell your friends about the EST content. You guys, you think Jersey? I love trade deadline week, man. Do you guys think Jersey would try Jack Campbell for Toffoli if they're going to wave the white flag? What do you think, guys? Come on.
They already said they're not trading to Foley.
Yeah.
So no,
I don't know if I believe Tom
happening.
Fitzgerald at all, but yeah. But that's not happening regardless anyway.
They're not trading. No, they're not. Yeah. They're not bringing.
They're not bringing on Jack Campbell prior to the deadline in New Jersey. So anyway, thank you very much for the text message, but probably not now the time for that type of deal to get done. Hey, what do you think happens with Pospisil and the hit from behind right into the back of Dunn? I don't think it's been announced. I know he has a hearing. I don't know if it's been announced either way, exactly if it's going to be an in-person. I feel like it ought to have already been announced if it was going to be an in-person, so it might not be. But, Gager, when a guy's numbers are just staring at you the whole way in, I still don't know how you're blowing them up at that point.
I hope they really start establishing that this is anything like this is a set amount of games, no matter prior offenses
or injury.
Just like you do this, it's 6 games. Boom. Whoa. That'll shock some guys. It's the only way to get this. It's the most dangerous play in hockey right now. Although,
and it's not like Gager. It's not like this was a situation where it's like the guy was spinning, and you were the hit, or a guy tried to turn out on you, and you skated through what you thought you were going to hit him. Like there is zero defense in this one. Like, what were you thinking here? I was thinking I'm going to hit him straight from behind. Like,
yeah, exactly. Just straight up.
Maybe they were thinking that they were going to spin off, right? Anticipating the spin off, and there was no spin off. I don't know, but
that's the only thing you could say. But horrible.
Yeah. No, hopefully I'd like a real like stiff penalty for this because it's the only way guys are going to actually, because we've seen this happen, and guys don't. Sometimes it's not even a penalty, for crying out loud, right? Establish that this is a huge offense. You're going to sit out for a number of games, and I think it will. Hopefully, we won't see hits like this much anymore.
You guys see the Barkov assist last night?
Ridiculous.
No, I didn't.
Like,
Was it
Cash,
ridiculous?
you gotta go look it up. If you're a computer, Gager.
I'll pull it up. Yeah.
I think a big man. I mean, maybe a size should, but a big man like Barkov to be able to pull off a play like that is just. I don't. It's the assist of the year. I don't know how you can have one that's any more impressive than that.
Yeah, Cass, he basically took the puck, bounced it, took him in the back and bounced it up in the air, played it to him, like volleyed it to the stick across inside the defenseman, dove and then batted it again forward, and as falling down, passed it across net for a tap in, wide open tap. All at
I just pulled it up.
speed.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And it's weird. Like, I remember, like, I've played against some pretty talented, like, big guys. When big guys have that type of, it's scary. Like, you kind of expect it from the smaller guys, but when a guy of his stature has the puck on a string, it's maddening, first of all. And you just look at the goalie, like, what just happened? Because it was like what, like under 2 seconds, all this happened in that time span. Unbelievable assist. Yeah, definitely assist of the year. It's going to be on every highlight reel until Christmas.
Lots of deadline discussion to get to. Some interesting names popping up. Both on Twitter, on X, in the inbox, over on YouTube. We'll get to that. If you have any questions for us, feel free to fire those over as well. Craig the Rotten Egg, he's put a lot of time into this question, so I do want to throw it around. Actually, let's save that question for a second. I want to get to the Elias Pettersson contract. He gets his long-term deal done. Comes in at $11.6 million for a long-term deal. The question here in Edmonton earlier this morning on our show was, how does this impact Leon Draisaitl's number in term the next time around on his deal? Cass, let's start with you. Your thoughts on Pettersson getting the bag from the Vancouver Canucks, and what does it mean for Oilers management in the future with Leon Draisaitl not far away?
Yeah, well, it means you're going to have to pay up. That's what that means. Is we already knew you were going to have to. Listen, he's incredibly skilled player, great player, been a huge part of their success this season. So you want to lock him up long term. So I get the length, I get the dollar value from a comparable standpoint, and it's really like I don't know if you're going to get Leon any cheaper. You're probably not.
You're not getting him cheaper. Not at all. I don't think you're getting any shot.
You're not
at that,
getting him cheaper. No. So what does it do to you? I mean, if Leon, which reportedly they've started some of those conversations, if the team was pushing a little bit lower, I mean, this may have just amped it up a little bit for what a reasonable ask from Leon Draisaitl is.
Gager, start with Pettersson, and then we'll dive into the contract fallout here for Draisaitl.
Oh, he's unreal. It's funny how Vancouver seems to find these like centerpiece Swedish players that are cornerstones and kind of pass through generations. He's taking the torch of the Sedins, Naslund, Thomas Gradin. He's awesome. He's pleasure to watch. Like to see, and he's small in stature and possesses one of the best one-timers in the league too. Like he's a magical player. Good for him. What it does for Leon, Leon is this year kind of statistic-wise more of a down. Would you say it was a down season for Leon? I wonder if that goes into any. I guess you got to look at the end of the year and things like that. But are you looking at? You're mostly looking at previous performance, I think.
He's accomplished a lot, right? He's accomplished pretty much everything you would like him to accomplish outside of winning a Stanley Cup championship. Austin Matthews cap hit next year, $13.25 million. Cass, how does Draisaitl settle for anything less, considering he's accomplished so much more?
He probably doesn't.
Right? Like this, I'm thinking if the Oilers get Draisaitl for 13.5, I think you kind of just got to swallow it and suck it up and say that's the way the market's been set, right? Like that's just what it has to be.
Yeah. Well, how can you not? Again, like if you from a leverage standpoint, Leon's got all the leverage heading into this. And you're not getting them for cheap. So, yeah, I don't see how you're getting them for less than that, really. It's probably going to be in that ballpark. It really is. And now maybe you take the hometown discount, let's call it, to a certain extent. Hey, you still want to play with Connor discount to a certain extent. You don't want to have to pack up and move discount to a certain extent, but that's not going to be much. So yeah, I mean, for whoever the next Oilers GM comes in, if this deal doesn't get done before this summer, you got a price to pay, and it is going to be expensive.
I think the one thing that, Gager, you have to be somewhat excited about as Oilers fans is that these guys always get these deals done, right? Like big name free agents at that stage of the career just don't really move around the National Hockey League that much. Teams end up just having to pay them. I mean, that's just the way it's worked for the majority of these guys for the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Is this the top of the list to get done over the summertime for the Oilers? Do you go into next year without a deal being done moving forward?
I don't think you want to.
Because I don't know. I just reading some things about different teams, and I really think by that time, and looking at the cap growth, if you don't get it done, I think you're vulnerable to a possibility of an offer sheet, don't you? For Leon, or is he?
He's a UFA. He's unrestricted.
He's UFA.
So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
Possibility of him walking, buddy. So
yeah, there's going to be. I mean, I'm sure there's talk. I would be scared of how much money that a Nashville Predators team would be throwing at Leon. They would love to get him.
He's been absolutely destroying them forever.
So he's not playing against them.
Yeah. I mean, and even to the point, I'd look at the Carolina Hurricanes. Depends where they're at that point to get the bona fide superstar, right? So there's going to be tons of options for Leon, I think, looking at the landscape. So yeah. Oilers got to get something done this summer, or else there's going to be too many lucrative offers for him if he hits the market as an unrestricted free agent.
Calvin hits us up in the nasty chat. You can text us as well if you were listening online. We appreciate it. Tell your friends about Edmonton Sports Talk. Calvin says, if Draisaitl says he's not resigning, what would his return be if you trade him in the summer? And that's just I think you gotta ride it out into the season and keep working on him, don't you, Cash? You can't just be like I don't see Leon Draisaitl saying, no matter what happens, I'm gone next year. Like, to me, it would just be a back and forth negotiation where, yeah, some hardball moments might come up, but if Draisaitl comes and says, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be back, you just trade him within a week because he said that, or you got to ride this thing out, right?
If he says I'm not going to be back no matter what, first, I don't think he's going to say that.
Yeah, I was going to say, why would he say that, right? Like, why would he say that no matter what? That makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me either. I can't imagine him saying that. If he did say that, I mean, you got to move him. But I can't see getting to that point. I refuse in my brain to even entertain that idea realistically. I just don't see it getting to that point. But I mean, the moment they sign Draisaitl to a long-term deal, Gager, it basically means Connor McDavid is staying as well, right? Like, that's the monumental moment. I don't see a scenario where Leon Draisaitl signs long-term and then Connor McDavid goes, cool. And then a year later is like, peace, I'm out. See you later. I would be stunned if that ended up happening. To me, it's either you end up with both of them long-term or you end up with neither of them long-term.
Well, especially since DVD said that Sidney Crosby's coming here in 2 years.
Right? Come on, calm down. You know what's crazy is that Sid's in his 19th season. Like, that's crazy to me that we've seen 19, and he's still this impactful. Like, it's been pretty impressive. All right, your text, your thoughts on all of it, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. The Chipman Goosers, and it says, boys, did you guys talk about Gagner and waivers? He was their best bottom six forward last game, in my honest opinion. Yeah, look, they're trying to get ahead of it, I think, here prior to the deadline. Probably trying to accumulate even the smallest amount of cap space that they possibly can prior to every few $1,000s will count right now for the Edmonton Oilers heading up towards the trade deadline. So I saw Tommy retweet and say, this is for cap purposes and trying to get ahead of it from a waiver perspective prior to the deadline. So I don't think this is they don't want him anymore type of thing. I think this is, let's take care of some paperwork here earlier in the week and see where it goes from here. Unless, of course, like we said, a spite claiming does pop up here at some point along the way. Tube Socks is in and says, what if Draisaitl walks because they waived Gagner? You can't treat Sam like that. I'm out of here. Yeah, that'd be an interesting one as well. Coach Mike texted in earlier and says, I thought Peros was meeting with Pospisil just to high five him. The NHL has turned a blind eye to hits from behind, which is it's true. I mean, that's a tough one to argue as well. McJesus is in with the ultimate positive, and I like this a lot. Stanley Cup in June, 8-year extension in July. And Connor McJesus says, Draisaitl and McDavid both take a discount as they want to win. If McDavid and Draisaitl's next deals come in at 3.24, just under Austin Matthews to say, look, we took a pay cut, but we're more dedicated to winning. That'd be a funny movie.
I mean, that would be unbelievable. That'd be super funny. I don't think it happens, but that'd be super funny.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen, but it'd be pretty funny. And as for the McDavid contract, we'll push that thing down the road, and obviously something we can discuss a little bit later on. All right, this text came in a little bit earlier, and geez, where is it here? 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. I know the gist of it, so we can kind of just get to the topic itself. But they were asking what we would think of Tyson Barry being the veteran defenseman that the Oilers bring in to be the number 7. I don't think he's the style of defenseman that you want to necessarily throw into the postseason. Gager, your initial thoughts on just Tyson Barry being a name that has come up here a little bit today?
I don't know, man. He was impactful in his last playoff series with Edmonton on providing a little bit more sandpaper than we normally see. I like the fact that you have a skilled guy that if if Bouchard gets injured or something, you have a person that you can plug directly into that power play again. And he's familiar with all these guys. It's a familiarity that I think is really important. I got time for it, to tell you the truth, Dusty.
Cass, what do you think?
No, I don't have time for it. And that's not anything against Tyson Barry, but he's just not stylistically the player that you need. Can he play with a little bit more sandpaper than normal? Sure. Does he really shore you up? I mean, the only way he does is if it's like you're picking Evan Bouchard and saying, okay, Bouchard's going to be the guy that gets hurt. And that's where we need a player to slot in.
You need that guy to be replaced. Yeah. Yeah.
Now maybe if he's nicked up already or something, but I don't.
I'm not sure why that name's coming up.
I'm not sure why that name's coming up.
Tango's in and says Adam Larson would be the guy that I would want to get back.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to be back. I don't think he wants to be back here. Like, could he be someone that would he be a perfect fit?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
of course he would be.
Yeah.
But I can't see him wanting to be here and being happy being here. For those personal reasons, so I just don't see it happening.
All right, let's get back. Craig the Rotten Egg says, Dusty, can you get back to that goalie question? So, first of all, thanks for reminding me. Let's dive back into that. Then we'll get into the Oilers and Bruins and some of this deadline talk on the Oilers front. Craig the Rotten Egg asked a little bit earlier on over the Nasty Chat, and of course, you can text us anytime as well, 780-218-9999. Hey, fellas, I feel there's an elephant in the room pertaining to the goalies, and I want your opinion on this. I keep hearing people talking about how well Pickard fits in the room, and the guys love him. Similar things were said about Campbell, but recently it's been brought up numerous times. There were things mentioned in the media about how Skinner has less noise around and the room is better now. So did Jack Campbell have some negative impact on the room? I heard he was a good person and people liked him, but was he a negative Nancy in the room? And I don't know how far we can actually sort of dive into this one. We do know that the relationship between Skinner and Campbell was always deemed as, something of a very positive. Gager, I think the difference here would be the fact that when Campbell was here and Skinner was here, and at the beginning of the year, they were both struggling. We have to remember Skinner's numbers were worse than Campbell's when Campbell got sent down. When Campbell left, there was no more, this is a guy who makes all the money. You'd like to try to get him sort of to be the guy. And Skinner was just straight up the 1A to no 1B anymore. I think that probably would be the level of discussion on the goalies, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, I heard it was more like Ricardo and Yuki that we saw in the last race. That was their relationship. They hate it. No, sometimes it can help, Dusty. It seemed like over the past 2 seasons, Campbell has struggled. Skinner has established himself as the bona fide number one. He kind of takes it and runs with it. When he gets that mantle of being the number one guy, it seems to play better. There was competition at the beginning of the year. If we think back to the preseason, and I think it was established by Woodcroft because, hey, this is up for grabs. We didn't get to where we wanted to go last year. I don't care of past performances. You guys are starting from scratch. That's what it seemed like to me, and it was kind of evident starting Jack Campbell at the beginning of the year, right? So sometimes with goaltenders, some guys like the competition, like being pushed by the other guy. Other guys want to just be the guy, not have to, let me focus on my game. And it seems like after Jack Campbell was sent down, Skinner didn't have anyone really to push him. He got the mantle. He was the number one guy and ran with it. So that being comfortable can help as well. As for the relationship, who knows? I mean, having a guy that's not a goalie that's not playing well, having to stay after practice and taking Cass's one-timers from the hash marks sucks. It's
up
a
high,
terrible place to be.
Up high, yeah.
That's a heavy shot. That's a heavy shot, right? Somebody's got to do it, though. All right. Somebody has to step up.
I went through a lot of pairs of gloves just from the repetitions. Yeah, shooting on the goalies.
All right, you're about to head off the ice after practice, and the coach looks at you and goes, "Where the hell are you going?"
Yep, pretty much.
Pretty
much. Guess I'm staying out and getting some extra work in today.
20 pucks locked and loaded, ready to go. Jimbo says, guys, you have to add to the blue line, right? It's been miraculous that there's been no injuries to this point. It's true. 3-man games lost to the entire blue line. They've basically been healthy the entire season, which has allowed them to continue to run with just the 6 and not have to carry the 7th and take up some of that much-needed cap space that they're going to need here before Friday afternoon. But now, you have to add. Yeah, they have, like, of all the things they have to add, a veteran defenseman, even a depth guy, Cass, has to be right at the top of the list, doesn't it?
That has been number one on my list for the past 2 months is a veteran right shot defenseman. Now, if you're trying to make something squeeze with a cap, could it be like a Bogosian, a name we've heard a little bit? I think potentially. I mean, he's not old. You would retain him for longer, but I've been a fan of Andrew Peeke out of Columbus. Although I don't know if you'd be able to get that done, and you would still have to wiggle the cap with that. But yeah, to me, that's still priority number one. I mean, it's I don't want to say it's absurd, but it's almost absurd how healthy they've managed to stay from a defensive standpoint. And you can't bank on that just continuing the rest of the season and through playoffs. Like you don't want to rely on that. And I know people are like, well, Broberg this and Broberg that. Well, Broberg showed you he wasn't ready, and he's not a veteran guy. And you want someone that you can slot in and move in and out of the lineup that doesn't have to get pouty if they're not playing. And yeah, I think that right side too. That's where I want it. Right-handed veteran defenseman. To me, that's the number one priority.
Gage, you can't come up and like if they get through the deadline. Let's play this game. They get through the deadline on Friday, and they've added a top 6 forward, and they've added a bottom 6 forward, and they're like, and Broberg will be the number 7 come playoff time. Is that a sound strategy? Could it work? Of course, it could work. Sure, maybe they just barrel their way to a Stanley Cup championship, but does that seem like the sound strategy for this team?
No, because I mean, when the day after the cup is presented, or the 2 days after, you get the injury report and it's always on the back end. This guy had a broken rib, a fractured wrist, broken foot. Like the amount of injuries that pile up over the course of 4 playoff series is crazy. I mean, I Oilers fans, I can't believe they keep talking about the health of their back end and how great this has been for their. This is the equivalent of being up a goal in the first and doing the wave. They got to quit talking about this. They're going to jinx themselves soon. But yeah, like Cass said, if you can find that right shot, like steady defenseman that you can that, to me, that's the most important thing, because really put Gagner back in the lineup. You finally got bottom six, like generating scoring in the bottom six with Gagner in there. It's a freebie.
This is pretty good right now. Ken Holland is trending on X right now, and you click on why, and it's just people who are furious about Sam Gagner being placed on waivers. Like it has nothing to do with anything else. If you just go click on it, it's just like, Ken Holland, I am going to find you. If Sam Gagner is not on this roster come playoff time, you're a dead man. Like people love Sam Gagner. The crazy thing is, Cass, is that it hasn't even really been in the lineup that much this year. I mean, he's usually the one guy in the press box while everybody else is playing, and people are still furious. Like.
Yeah, they're still furious because they love some Samwise. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That's unreal. I love that it's trending.
Oh yeah. No, people are not happy with Ken Holland on Twitter right now. Some of the reaction is just, it's kind of ridiculous. I love this one too. Something's afoot. Ken Holland has started to move his pawns around the chessboard, and that means he's setting up to make a move. Keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah,
it's 3 days before the deadline.
That's exactly what's happening.
It's 3 days before the deadline. Yeah. Everybody's moving pawns around the board. Like, this one's good. This is a reply directly to the Edmonton Oilers on their tweet that Sam Gagner has been placed on waivers. Fire Ken Holland. Can we get a new GM, please? This one says, Ken Holland, if I see you in the streets, you're a finished boy. Like, people are just like, oh man. This guy retweeted the Oilers tweet and says, Ken Holland, I will find you. So this one says, half of me is mad that Ken Holland sucks so much. The other half of me wants him to be a Calgary Flame. So there we are. That is the absolute latest on Twitter reaction to Sam Gagner. That's a good bit for a segment, actually. Like, especially like after when something's up for like a suspension or something, just to hop online and read the overreaction on two guys isn't a bad idea. Isn't a bad idea. Oh, by the way,
I like it.
A new insertion into the insider biz, and I'll tell you, when this happens on Friday, I'm going to circle back around and retweet this. But I don't know if you guys saw it a little bit earlier on today. Lieutenant Eric tweeting out, I expect the Oilers to execute at least one trade prior to Friday's trade deadline. And when they make at least one deal on Friday, I'm going to retweet and be like, he had it first. Eric had it first. Yeah. I mean, it's already done.
He did.
It's already taken care of. So that's a good one. All right, let's get into Oilers and the Boston Bruins tonight. First game on a 4-game road trip that goes Boston, Columbus, and then the back-to-backs, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Gager, you said it on Two Guys earlier today. Cass, I know you laid it out on post-game as well. The goaltending schedule does seem pretty clear-cut here. I would think now, I know somebody this morning, Gage, right after you were on, they said Knobloch has said that Skinner's starting 2 out of every 3 no matter what. But, I mean, if they were concerned at all about Skinner getting a little bit worn down, he does not have to play on Thursday against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Give him the Bruins tonight. You split the 2 on the weekend. Each guy gets 2 games on the road trip. Cass, this just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we laid it out a couple of weeks ago. I think you have to play him against Columbus, Pickard. Like, why would you play Skinner against them? You got a bunch of games coming up. It makes sense to fit him in there. Columbus not very good. Pickard's been solid, so you're not staring at that game going like, this is a must win. We have to have Stuart Skinner in net game. It's just not. And I do think that you want to be mindful of the amount of games you're playing him, because he's played a lot this year. He's played a lot, and he's going to finish the season with a lot of games. So, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer that Pickard should be in net. Now, if he's not, I think it would be a legitimate question to ask why. Yeah, I think it would be a fair question to ask why, but I can't see Pickard not starting against the Columbus Blue Jackets later this week.
Yeah, no, you're treating these goalies like Cass's summer footwear. You're flip-flopping these bad boys over the next one.
I think that should be the case, but I don't know. There's been some spots where they could have got Skinner a little bit of rest, and they haven't done it yet. But Gage, it's not even like Pickard's numbers are just as good anyway. So, I mean, his save percentage I think is technically better. So I'm just saying your goaltending should be okay in a game against Columbus if you roll with Pickard.
Yeah, there's no reason not to play him. He's kind of, you have a unique opportunity to have your backup, your bona fide backup, getting some more reps, some more time, gaining his confidence, and just in case, right? So, yeah, I think, I don't know, is it irresponsible not to play him against the Jackets? I'm leaning towards that.
Oh, I like that. That puts a little bit more. Right. That puts it on there. Is it irresponsible to not play Pickard against the Columbus Blue Jackets? Cass, Draisaitl and McDavid have been together for a good little chunk now. It's led to some wins for sure. How much longer do you roll with these guys? What's the determining factor in splitting them back up? By the way, did you guys see my tweet over the weekend? Leon Draisaitl has 2 5-on-5 goals this year playing with Connor McDavid, which just blew my mind. They played that was prior to the last game, so they've probably played about 360 minutes now, 5-on-5, and he has 2 5-on-5 goals alongside McDavid. I had to tweet it out for the analytics community just to confirm that I was reading it right because it surprised me so much. And they said I was. Bruce McCurdy confirmed that for me, so thank you again, Mr. McCurdy. But how much longer do you? What do you do here with these two guys moving forward?
All depends what happens on trade deadline day.
So you keep them together the rest of the week, and is that what they're?
I think so.
Like when they talk about top six, I asked this of I guess it was of Eric this morning on the Nielson show. When you look at the top 6 forward you're acquiring, Cash, you look at somebody that you think is best suited to play with Leon Draisaitl. Right, because then Nuge, Hyman, and McDavid, they're a thing. And I think 100%. It's a different type of player, right, than the guy who wants to play with 97 and 29. So how much do you read into that? Like, what do you do there?
Yeah, 100% that factors into if you are going to go out and get a guy that can slot into your top 6, you're looking at someone who's going to be a good fit with Leon. And I think part of it is, we haven't seen, for all that Leon hasn't put up 5-on-5 goals with Connor McDavid, there's been times when he struggled with Evander Kane on his wing. And you're trying to find a mix that's going to work where guys are comfortable and they enjoy playing with one another. And I don't know if you were seeing that truly with Leon Draisaitl and Evander Kane. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes, barring the team playing really poorly. Let's say maybe they would mix it up again if they played really poorly against Boston today. But you're probably going to be in a holding pattern with your lineup, I think, until post trade deadline. And you kind of have to see how it shakes out from there. Who actually comes in, who actually goes out, if anyone goes out, if anyone comes in for that forward group. And you're going to make your decisions with how you're going to deploy the lineup the rest of the way and where Leon Draisaitl is going to play after that point.
And you're a risky guy saying if somebody comes in, if Ken Hall,
if a forward comes in,
they're going to trade for a forward though, right? Like, I guess I haven't had this discussion.
How they,
Cass, what would the minimum be for the Oilers to have a successful deadline? What would you say?
Here's a follow. Well, I guess I want to ask you a question instead of answering that one, because realistically, how do they get 2 trades done?
What do you mean realistically? How do they get? I mean,
from a cap space standpoint, how do you get 2 trades done at this deadline?
I mean, you could technically trade for 2 guys who make $800,000 and not have to move anybody out. I mean,
and then
2 league minimum guys.
Like, you didn't bring in a top.
But you could. I mean, for a forward, I mean, you could do Fogle and a first and a prospect go out for Buchnevich. St. Louis retains. That's almost even. And then you use the cap space that you've accrued to go out and land a defenseman. So I think they're gonna. I think there's gonna be enough cap space for them to. With some retention, and teams are retaining. Like we saw the 2 trades that happened recently, 75% has been retained along the way, which makes a lot more possible. It's just a matter of Ken Holland getting creative and actually getting it done. So I think 2 trades can be made. No doubt in my mind, just like Uncle Rico would have said on Napoleon Dynamite. So I do think the cap space is there for 2. Like Connor McJesus says, you can get up to 75% of the cap hit retained. So you got to get creative with cap retention, but you can acquire 2 bodies here prior to the deadline. I mean, if they couldn't, I don't know why they'd be linked to so many things, right? Popping up all the time about this guy and this guy and this guy. So,
well, because you're kicking all the cans, right? Like, you're kicking all the tires. You're trying to see what's out there and what's available. So yeah, I mean, I just think the quality of players that people want, like it's gonna be tough to do. It's gonna be tough to do. I think, what was your original question?
My
like,
original question was like, what do they have to accomplish by deadline on Friday for you to be like, you know what, successful deadline?
Still bolster that defense. I mean, that to me that's issue number one. So if they do that, even if they're not able to do something else, I will be like, yeah, that was probably successful. But even then, like, the real success, we're not going to look at just the deadline. We're going to look at the results long term for the rest of the season. So down the stretch, was it successful? In the playoffs, was it successful? That'll really be the tail of the tape, proof in the pudding. Not so much just how we evaluate that day, but I mean, it would be not successful if he doesn't get anything done. I don't see that happening because there's so much that it factors on. Like, what are other teams trading? How much are other teams paying? What, I don't know. There's just so much that goes into that, Dusty.
Nick Raz says New Jersey saying they're not moving to Foley is a ploy to increase the return on him. Which very well could be one of those things that's being planted here prior to the deadline. B-Mother Reviews over on the Nasty Chat says, guys, I read Vegas has a little over $7 million in cap space. Do they get Gensel and Buchnevich with money retained, of course? Well, I mean, I can't imagine Edmonton if the deadline comes and goes and it's like Vegas acquires like 2 of the top 6 forwards that everybody's kind of been going after. I would be a little surprised if Vegas doesn't find a way to get one of the top names that are kind of out there, because they usually always do. And they need it with the way that they play. They lost 6-3 in Columbus last night.
And then they got so many guys hurt. And then they end up with a salary cap of like 105 or 110 heading into the playoffs, right? They get let's say they get both those guys. They get both of them. Stone stays out. Eichel gets re-injured until playoffs, and
they've brought in an entire line. That is Toffoli and Gensel and Adam Henrique, the entire line to the Vegas Golden Knights. That would not be good. Connor McJesus says minimum 2 forwards, top 9, fourth liner, and a depth D-man. As for the game tonight, Oilers and Boston Bruins, we just saw these two clubs play. Bruins did play last night. They played well last night, though. There's maybe a difference of struggling and then having to go back to back. Gager, what do you expect from the Oilers and Bruins tonight? What type of game should we be waiting to see from these two clubs?
Not much difference from the Bruins. I think they're playing quite well. I look back to the game here that they had. Oilers were a little bit leaky, allowing the middle of the ice. I'm sure that's going to be locked up a little bit better. I mean, really, Dusty, it all depends if Louis is going to give another golden ticket to his son and cause problems.
What a thriller that game was, though. I'll take that again.
It was a good game. It was a very entertaining game. I hope it's the same with a little bit more. Let's sprinkle in a little bit more
responsibility.
Responsibility on the defensive side for the Oilers, I would say, and no golden tickets. Come on, Lou.
Cass, what do you think happens tonight, buddy? I know you'll dive into more in the pregame with Tommy.
We'll dive into it more. It'll be interesting. Being at that Boston game the other day, like the Oilers, they struggled for such periods of that game. Like that second period was awful, and they claw back into it, and they're able to squeak a point out of it eventually. But that second period was straight up horrible. And then you had goaltending struggles, I think, from Boston in that one where the only reason, really, in my opinion, that the Edmonton Oilers got back into it was, Boston had horrible goaltending, and it allowed the Oilers to get back into it. So I am expecting a much tighter game from Edmonton. There was way too many turnovers to the middle of the ice that last night, way too many. Now they've cleaned it up a bunch since then, so I am expecting a tighter game. Hopefully with some better goaltending from Edmonton, and hopefully just as poor goaltending on the Boston side. But we'll see what happens. Boston isn't a team you can just give freebies to, and they give way too many freebies and way too much offensive zone time off of those freebies. and you can't have that happen again tonight.
No Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in that game. Obviously, the Nuge tightened things up. That's just how he is. So no Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in that game, but that was the Fogle game, right? Fogle got the opportunity, buried a couple, and made the most of his opportunity there as well. Big Uke over on YouTube says, guys, I just saw on Twitter, further to Gagner being waived, Buchnevich wears number 89. Are they giving themselves time to get a new name bar on? Which is good. It was brought to our attention on the show this morning when Tom Fitzgerald said he's not moving Tyler Toffoli, or he's not shopping Tyler Toffoli. Somebody said, well, he's not shopping him because he's already traded him to the Edmonton Oilers, and it's just a matter of time until they announce it. So everybody wants to get their hands on everybody. That's why trade deadline is going to be so good. We're going to have another Two Guys and a Goalie at noon on Thursday, which should be a lot of fun as well. Very much looking forward to that. Gager, give us the prediction for tonight.
Let's go with a 4-2 Oilers win.
4-2 Oilers win, covers the puck line over at Coolbet. The EST parlay is posted at Coolbet as well. Visit them, of course, at coolbet.com. They've been with us on Two Guys here for a long time. McDavid, 2 points. Bush a point, Nuge a point, and the Oilers to win at plus 450. We also have a little NHL partner parlay over there as well. It's plus 515, which is a nice boost because it was around plus 450 before we got the boost from Coolbet. Panthers win, Penguins and Preds in regulation, both to win at plus 515. Boys, enjoy the game tonight. Cass, have a good pre and post with Tommy, and Gager, we'll talk to you later in the week. You guys have a good afternoon.
Later, boys.
Bye.